Welcome to my channel Shadows of History. I'm planning to do a series on African women in power or influential roles. I've already mapped out some saved drafts. I may not drop them one after another. I didn't want to wait for Women's History Month either, so stay tuned. Copy them to your own folders and arrange them as you see fit. The art is AI prompted by me, but based on the records of the time, the text is mine drawn from various sources. Queen Amina of Zazzau. Power without apology. Much of African history is told through kings, warriors, and dynasties of men. That imbalance is not historical. It is archival. When women appear, they are often reduced to legends, scandals, or symbols rather than examined as rulers who governed real states. Queen Amina of Zazzau, modern Zaria in northern Nigeria, is one of the clearest reminders that African women did not merely influence power, they wielded it. Who was Queen Amina? Queen Amina ruled Zazzau, one of the major Hausa city-states, traditionally dated to the late 16th century. Zazzau was not a peripheral kingdom. It was a strategic commercial hub linking the central Sudan, the Niger Basin, and forest regions to the south. Control of trade routes meant wealth, soldiers, and political leverage. Amina did not rule as a regent or placeholder. Hausa traditions remember her as a sovereign in her own right, trained in warfare from a young age and recognized for military competence long before she ascended the throne. That detail matters. She was not elevated despite her abilities. She ruled because of them. Based on Hausa political norms and oral tradition, Amina fits the profile of a hands-on military ruler. She personally led campaigns rather than delegating entirely to generals. She expanded Zazzau's influence farther than any previous ruler. She emphasized consolidation after conquest, not chaos. What drove her expansion? Queen Amina's campaigns are often described simply as conquests, but that word hides the logic behind them. Her military actions served three interconnected goals. Securing trade routes. Zazzau depended on long-distance commerce, kola nuts, leather goods, metals, textiles, and enslaved labor. Amina's wars brought key routes under Zazzau's influence, reducing tolls paid to rivals and increasing state revenue. Textile workers such as dyers and embroilers were the biggest industry among the Hausa cities. Cotton was grown in surrounding towns and villages in the Hausalands and brought to the cities, where thousands of weavers worked with treadle looms to make cloths. Dyers dipped these cloths in indigo pits and embroiderers added unique geometric patterns to each robe. Cotton was grown in the Hausalands as early as the 10th to 13th century with textile production and dyeing following not long after. By the 15th century textile production and cotton growing had already come to be associated with the Hausa cities as noted by historian Leo Africanus in 1526 AD, who wrote about the abundance of cotton around Kano and Zamfara. Forcing tributary relationships. Rather than annihilating neighboring polities, her campaigns often imposed tribute systems. This allowed Zazzau to benefit economically without the costs of permanent occupation everywhere. Projecting legitimacy. In a competitive political landscape and as a woman ruling a patriarchal society, military success was political proof. Victory translated directly into authority. This was not reckless expansion. It was statecraft through warfare, a familiar model across the pre-modern world. Did Queen Amina build, or only conquer? This is where her legacy becomes tangible. Across northern Nigeria, multiple cities attribute major defensive structures to her, collectively known as the Ganyawar Amina, Walls of Amina. These fortifications. Queen Amina was not alone. Across Africa, women ruled kingdoms, resisted empires, negotiated treaties, and built states. Many were erased, some survived as legend. A few, like Amina, left walls behind. This series will explore them, not as myths, not as mascots, but as historical actors whose power was real, structured, and lasting. Part 2 will move north, to the Nile Valley, and a woman who made Rome retreat. Sources and historical notes, for readers who want to go deeper. Muhammad Bello, Infak Almaser, early 19th century Hausa historical traditions referencing Amina. Abdullahi Smith, the early states of the central Sudan, on Hausa city, states and political structure. Adela I, R.A., Power and Diplomacy in Northern Nigeria Trade Routes and Military Politics. Elizabeth Isake, A History of African Societies to 1870 Oral Tradition versus Historiography. This is one of my personal favorites, backhand index pointing up, medium dark skin tone. Saad Abubakar, Studies on Gannuar Amina, Walls of Amina, and Urban Fortifications.